All right, here we go. Dr. Joey Cadena. Ah, man, I gotta work. I gotta look. I gotta work on like rolling my
Yeah,
R's.
yeah.
I'm not very good at that. I feel
It's
like I have
all
a
good.
stiff tongue. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. I couldn't be happier to be here.
Yeah, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down. So for the listeners, we're at Paleo FX here in Austin,
Yes.
Texas. I always explain to people like it's a health and wellness conference,
Yeah.
obviously geared towards like the paleo and keto lifestyle, but it's just very like naturalistic and just
Yes.
movement
Yeah.
and
Getting back to the basics.
yeah, it's a pretty rad community here.
Yes.
Eh,
That's something that I just completely was blown away by the warmth of the entire crowd.
Yeah, is this your first time at
It
Paleo?
is.
Okay.
I've always followed the conference online, and before I was really into Mace training, I was a Spartan racer,
Mm-hmm.
and it always fell the weekend of Spartan race or the week before.
Yeah.
And so I had to time it, and the key race for us was in Austin, and I couldn't like swing one or the other if I wanted to hit like the race series. So
Yeah.
it took precedent.
Yeah, opportunity cost, man. You got to
Yeah,
sacrifice. Yeah,
yeah,
so, well, that's cool, man. And you're here, you're representing your company, Primal Flow,
yes.
and you guys have just been killing it.
Oh
So,
man, I tell you again, it's such a surprise that what a warmth, the acceptance and the complete embrace that this whole community has given my company and our products this weekend.
yeah.
We've had a wonderful like online presence, and we've had such great support and feedback from people who bought Primal Flow tools from us.
Yeah.
But when you go in a big project like this, I mean, this was probably an 8-month prep when we dropped the application to be part of Paleo Effects.
Mm-hmm.
We did a hey, let's what if.
Yeah, what if?
My wife, she's the business side of our office, and she says we've always wanted to come to Paleo Effects, and we're like, what if we have a booth? Let's just see what the process is.
Yeah.
And so you have to apply. You have to put a picture of your product and your vision and your website, and they review it and they decide whether you're like a fit or not.
Right.
And so one night we're having dinner and we're like, what if we apply to get a Paleo FX booth? And so we went through the process and we hit submit and, went to bed that evening. And the next day I got a call.
Oh, so they responded really
Yeah,
quick.
the guy was Peter he's one of the directors of the event. He's like, dude, I checked out your product online last night, your application, and you're the perfect fit for the whole conference. You're the kind of
Absolutely.
thing we're looking for. And I was like, oh, crap.
It's like it's real now.
This became real.
Yeah.
And we're like, dude, we have to, prepare. We have to assume we're going to make some good sales. We have to put some packages together that are attractive and really put the movement practice forward to someone who's never seen this before, because we're going to encounter thousands of people. They're going to walk by and go, what's that?
Yeah, like this is your opportunity to have that educational like conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, dude. So, and I've been watching you online, and I mean, you've been working like furiously to get prepped for this.
Yes.
So like from the inception, so for the listeners, like, with Primal Flow, like you have a couple really like keynote products, which you have the wooden mace. I always want to say steel mace. I'm just
Right.
saying,
No, me too. I still say it.
yeah, but you have the wooden mace, but then you have the awesome like rad Thor hammer.
Yes.
But it's just such a like a really like great tool that like not a lot of people are seeing.
Yeah.
But I remember like when you first released it, it's like you're bootstrapping it. It's like, all right, here's a batch, and like this is what we're doing this month. And like
Yes.
I just saw you working like. You're like, all right, well, we're gonna like hold orders because we need to prep for this big conference.
Yes.
And you've just been like killing it. And this is
Thank
just
you.
like the outside looking in,
Yeah.
right? But I see all the orders that are going out and like just the great response to
Yes.
just such a really good tool. So like,
Yes.
what's that feel like?
Oh, man, it is completely mind-blowing because, honestly, the inception of Primal Flow was a brainstorm of what if. I come from a martial arts background.
Yeah, let's talk about that actually.
Yeah,
That was
sweet.
So let's for the listeners, right? Because I mean I know who you are,
Right.
And like we took the Steel Mace Flow beta group together,
Yes.
and just following you on social. But let's go back to like Dr. Joey.
Nice.
Like you've been a martial artist your whole life, so
Yes.
I imagine that started before you were a physical therapist. So
Absolutely. Let's do it.
yeah, let's talk about that, like your background
Yeah.
in martial arts and what that
For
means
sure.
to you, man.
Absolutely. So I'm a physical therapist, been that for 12 years, but I started out my kind of physical training history, if you will, in martial arts with American Kenpo and Jeet Kune Do and some Filipino stick fighting, Kali.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of jiu-jitsu, and I got a yellow belt in judo. I try to get really like a full spectrum
A little
of the
taste of
feel.
everything.
Yeah, just to kind of round out some weak spots. And I've had a great training opportunity to learn from some, great school or instructor. I didn't care what system or style. Everything has something great to offer.
Yeah.
So I never limited myself to, well, I'm just a Kenpo stylist
Yeah.
or, I'm just a student of motion.
Yeah, which is easy to do, right? People
Yes.
get very dogmatic.
And I think it also takes a little bit of I want to say a humble personality to where you're okay to feel like a beginner again and like complete newbie.
I like that feeling.
I do too.
It's like not comfortable, but like you know that you're gonna get better. Like I just love the process of getting better.
I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee. Like that was like the reason why I started everything I do. Is just his training philosophy or his life philosophy was, you know, get out of your comfort zone. Don't have limits as limit. Don't have a style as style.
Yeah.
But you do have to have a style, so you have a movement foundation.
Right.
You can't just go pound on the keys on a piano and say you're a pianist, right? You're going to make pretty much noise.
You got to put, some sort of foundation there.
So what I found was American Kenpo to me was a really beautiful art that was progressive and fluid, and it just spoke to me. And so that was my foundation of movement to get structure. I have a 7th degree black belt in American Kenpo. But then I also, at the same time, through that journey, I met some really great Jeet Kune Do stylists, which was what I wanted all the time with Bruce Lee's system.
Absolutely.
So I went through some certifications in Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
And along the way through school and everything, I met a great judo instructor, and I had the opportunity to train for a few months. So I earned, a yellow belt in judo. Yeah. Then just scheduling in life took me away from that, but I took some judo into my, movement systems. And that kind of what introduced me. Back in, I think, 99 or 2000, I had a massive knee injury competing in the internationals in California.
And this is Kenpo?
Kenpo.
Okay.
So Kenpo is a very self-defense related art. You know, it has techniques kind of like Krav Maga or any of these systems. They're like, okay, here's a defense against a knife attack, or here's the defense against, a straight jab. And you go through a series of movements like drills or techniques. Okay. And so there's a competition around that called self-defense. And I was blessed to have won 4 international titles in self-defense.
Oh, shit, dude. Nice.
Competing in Long Beach, California in the International Karate, Kenpo Championships. Yeah. And I was training with the senior grandmaster in LA one year, really prepping for the next World Championships or internationals. And I had been training all week long. And we were at the beach. My wife and I were hanging out. We're about to fly out the next day. Yeah. And I look at the time, and I'm like, dude, there's another Kenpo class tonight. And this is a senior grandmaster. Senior grandmaster Chuck Sullivan was a 4th black belt in the U.S. Oh, wow. So he's one of the fathers of, like, American martial arts.
Yeah, real deal.
He earned his black belt in 1959. And so
he's still alive.
He's still alive, and he's like 84, I think, and he still teaches class every week. Yeah. You would think he's like 60. Man. And the guy moves like he's 30.
And that's why, right? Because he'll do it until he dies.
He's a Marine, ex-Marine, kept that lifestyle. And, so and it's just an amazing, amazing teacher. So I said, you know what? Grandmaster Chuck's teaching tonight. We're flying back home tomorrow to Texas. One more class could be one more lesson, could be one more pearl of knowledge. Yeah. Let's go. And my wife's like, dude, the class already started. You're going to get there late. No. Stubborn me, right? Listen to your wife. Listen to self. Listen to your wife.
It's a good one.
So I book it across town. We book it across LA. I jump into class. They'd already warmed up. And they're doing some power kicking drills on like a life-size dummy, working through like some really powerful side kicks and step-in kicks, like shield stuff. Yeah. So I pop in and I'm like, I'm going to kick this thing harder than everyone in the room because senior grandmaster's watching, hadn't warmed up. Humble moment right there. Humble pie.
Dude, every time if I don't warm up, like I'll go and do jiu-jitsu or something, I'm just like, I immediately regret this decision.
Immediately. Yeah. And I was 23, 24 at the time.
Yeah,
so
but you're
invincible when you're that age.
Invincible, dude.
Yeah. So my knee told me otherwise.
Yeah.
I blew out my MCL, dislocated patella, tore the meniscus, the whole bit.
Bad, dude. Yeah. What was that recovery like?
It took me a year.
Yeah.
It took me a year. Surgery. Yeah. Rehab. Finally getting back to competition.
It's hard on the mind, right?
It is.
Like to begin to trust the body.
Yes.
So like, I mean, I've done martial arts for a number of years, and I fought MMA for a decade, and I tore my rotator cuff in labor room and had surgery. It was about probably about a year until I competed again.
Yes.
A good solid 6 months of physical therapy, and again, the physical therapy never stops. Like you're always trying to regain, range of motion and strength. But the thing that really stuck out was like just really trying to remember like to trust my shoulder. It's like, all right, it is healed, right? It's like you've done the things you need to do, but that's a hard mental gap to get over.
And that's a really good point because what happened was I was concurrently studying Jeet Kune Do at the time. Yeah. And I was getting ready for, there's actually 4 phases in the program I was going through to be like a fully certified instructor. Okay. And I had just gotten into the quote, like apprentice instructor phase, and I was about to test for phase 4 to get full certification. And that particular system had a lot of jiu-jitsu integrated into it. And I was terrified to go on the ground and roll with somebody and do leg locks or any kind of jiu-jitsu after that knee injury.
Yeah.
So out of my own fear, I stopped my training in Jeet Kune Do, which to this day, 20 years later, I regret.
Yeah.
Because I didn't finish the certification out of fear of, okay, the ground game on the tests are pretty intense.
Yeah.
And I don't think I trust my knee to hold up to that.
Yeah,
and
just the fear of the unknown.
Right. And so that started my journey to become a PT, was this fear of, like, can I get back to, the contact I was doing with sparring? Can I get back to truly laying into a kick and pivoting like I did when I tore my knee?
Yeah.
It's a trust factor that I had to regain. And that's why I say it took a year, because I really didn't take myself to that point till about a year later. And I did the internationals one more time just so I could say I did it again. And I got back in my action, my game. And I didn't do as well as I wanted to, get up on podium or anything like that. But I think I placed in the top 5 or so.
Yeah.
It was a good.
It's hard coming back from an injury, man. Like the mental aspect, there is the trust, but like a whole year away from competition, man. It's like in your mind you feel like you should be as good as you were, but like there's still that timing, which is really big.
For sure.
Now, in Kempo, is that that's a point fighting system?
It is.
Okay.
There's a point fighting system, but what I was doing was self-defense tactics.
Yeah.
And so the way it works, it's kind of like you have a panel of 5 judges, and you have various attackers that come at you.
Oh.
And so it's random. So you have like 5 attackers. You have a person behind you that points to the person. You don't know who it's going to be.
Coming.
And they shoot an attack. You don't know what it's going to be. And then you have to respond with a recognized Kenpo technique and defend yourself.
Yeah.
And the judges are like, one judge looks just at your footwork. One judge looks just at your hand. And the other one looks for the actual recognized technique.
Oh, wow.
And then the other one's like overall effectiveness. Did you dissipate the attack? Did you, were you effective?
Yeah.
And they judge you on points. And then they tally the points of each person that goes up through that line.
Yeah.
And then the one that had the best technique, the best speed, the best execution, they're the ones that win that particular round.
That is a thorough grading system.
Yeah, it's super cool because it's kind of like almost like video monitoring. And they're like, everybody's looking at one aspect of the camera.
Yeah.
And they're using a clicker so they don't take their eyes off of you. And if they see a mistake or a missed shot, or if it should have been a groin shot or a rib shot and you missed it, they click it, right? Because you maybe went somewhere off.
Yeah.
Or something along that line. So,
wow.
And then you would go to round 2, and it was grabs and holds. And so you had the people behind you. You had the person pointing, so you didn't know who was again coming.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a lock or hold on you, and then you have to do a recognized escape.
Yeah.
And so it was a competition more on like skill and technique.
Yeah, you got to be fast on your feet.
You got to be fast on your feet. You got to do an actual recognized skill, and you have to hit with precision, but also with control. You couldn't lay out the opponent and just like knock them clean out. It was more about, making contact with the actual body part, but not to the point where you knock their teeth out.
That shows like real mastery. Like in jiu-jitsu, I've been doing that for a really long time, and you start rolling with higher belts, and the more experience you have, you're just calmer, and you're able to to really dictate the pace. So how much energy you're putting out, and it's like the safest person to roll with is like a black belt.
Thank you.
No matter they can be small or 100 pounds heavier than you. It's going to be way safer to roll with somebody like that because they're going to be able to just kind of as much. They're going to be able to give like as much intensity as needed for the situation.
So true, and that was the whole philosophy of Grandmaster Sullivan. Was he said, I want you to be able to hit someone and hit them, but I also want you to give the same speed, technique, and skill and not hit them. And if you hit them, you missed.
Yeah.
And so his whole thing was you have to have that control and precision and control of your body and the technique itself.
Yeah.
So the techniques were looked for precision. They were looked for style and execution. But they were also looking for control with speed and power.
Yeah.
And so the same thing, anytime I sparred, I love to spar a high-level black belt.
Right.
Because we would kind of dictate, like, hey, we're going to go like 50% on this. We're just going to tap each other. What we doing?
Yeah.
And I knew that if we said, hey, we're just going to tap, play around, let's just kind of throw some techniques and volley a little bit. Yeah. I knew I wasn't going to get my face knocked off.
That helps you be creative and it helps you grow.
Yes. So you were able to try kind of new technique sequences or try a series of like attacking from the outside.
Right.
And you felt safe enough to not get your face knocked off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with the beginner, the control's not there, the speed and timing and reaction's not there.
Right.
And they're the ones that usually give you the black eye.
That is so true. That's so true.
So that whole arena was sort of taken from me from the injury, and that opened the whole thought process of I need to learn how to rehab this. I need to learn how to get back. And there's so many people out there, obviously, with sports injuries that have the same crushing mindset of like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I was 25 or 24, and I'm like, I'm not done, man.
No, man, your
I'm
body's
young.
actually primed to heal still.
Thank you. So that drove the idea of, I think I want to be a PT. I want to get into this more and learn how to do this. And that led me down the pathway of rehab and strength and conditioning.
Yeah. You've been doing this for 15 years now, you said?
I've been a PT for 11 years.
11 years.
And I started in martial arts when I was 17.
Yeah.
So I'm 46 now. So do the math.
Dude, going on 30 years,
30
man.
years
Yeah.
of training, in some capacity.
Yeah.
For many, many, many years. It was like 5 days a week of martial arts. Now it kind of integrates with my steel mace and everything
Absolutely.
else. So I still keep it.
It's just that movement of language.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that like movement is a language.
Yes.
And so it took me a while to realize that. Whenever I did, I was like, oh well, wrestling was my first I actually did karate as a child, but like for some reason when I started wrestling, like that really clicked.
Spoke to you.
Yeah. So like anytime I see a movement. And it's real big in the fitness community, right? Like movement is just movement.
Yes.
People like to put labels and market it and sell it, but it's just I see something, I'm like, oh, I'll put a wrestling term to it. I'm like, that's what that is. That's what that is.
That's what I do with the Kenpo system, right?
Yeah. Since you did Kempo, man, you were really dabbling in the early days of MMA. I mean, Bruce Lee was really the grandfather of MMA.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He
Absolutely.
was, stylist styles, wherever the fight goes. And he was all about, eye gouging and winning the fight. That's what it's about.
The mindset.
So I'm not surprised you had to, go on the ground for that final.
Yes.
That final,
Yeah, the Jeet Kune
days.
Do system I studied was Burton Richardson through High Performance Martial Arts.
Yeah.
Or Jeet Kune Do Unlimited.
Yeah.
He was a student of Danny Inosanto, which was Bruce Lee's right-hand man.
Yeah.
So he was straight Bruce lineage, and I had the beautiful honor to train with Danny Inosanto at a seminar.
Oh, nice.
And so that was the lifetime bucket list.
Dude, you got a picture, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I still have that picture ready, available to show people. Look, I trained with Danny Inosanto.
Absolutely.
I mean, that guy is the epitome of martial artist. I mean, his skill and techniques a whole other level, but he's also the lifetime student. He was studying Gracie Jiu-Jitsu at the time, and he's since earned his black belt with the Gracies.
Okay.
But he himself took him point, and that's why it was such a role model for me of take yourself out of the quote-unquote master black belt, and be the lifetime student.
Right.
Here is the most guru master martial artist that's out there, and that's short of Bruce Lee since he's not with us anymore.
Right.
And he's the student with a white belt rolling in jiu-jitsu class.
Right.
And he's going up the colored belt rank just like everyone else.
Everybody else. That says a lot.
Yes, and I had the pleasure and honor to talk to him a little while in the hotel lobby and after the seminar. And he was such a humble, genuine, honest guy.
Yeah.
If anybody had room to have ego or cockiness, it was this guy. And there was not an ounce of it. He was the most awesome person and just so willing. And he gave me a compliment. We're doing some drills that he was teaching us. And I saw him watching me, so I was like, "Oh man, I gotta make sure I'm rocking with this one."
Yeah, you're tuned in then.
And I see him nod, and when I'm done with the drill pattern, and I go over to get his input, he goes, "You get this. I see that you get this." And he had a little smile, and he nodded, and that was the most aha moment for me. I'm man,
yeah,
that was the biggest compliment ever.
Absolutely. It's important to have that ego in check. I think of a really well-known fighter, George St. Pierre.
Yes.
He always talked about having that white belt mentality.
Yes.
I'm just always a white belt.
Sure. He was always one of my favorites for that reason and the skill set, of course.
Yeah, great dude. So when did the Mace enter your life?
Yeah. I had been doing Spartan racing. Martial arts kind of ran its course for me. After that injury, I still continued to teach and train for, I don't know, maybe 10 more years or so. But the ego a lot in the martial arts system and the politics and my style is better than your style.
Especially as you start getting a black belt, you start getting higher. There's much more political at that of all martial arts for some reason.
And it kind of lost its shine for me. I mean, I still love to move and I still love to practice. But I kind of strayed a bit from it because of that. It just wasn't appealing as much to me to go out there and go to seminars or conventions or training events because that was always there.
Yeah.
And so I got into Spartan racing because it was a fun, put yourself out there, multi-sport. You're climbing, you're pulling, you're carrying, you're jumping, you're running.
Yeah.
And so it fed back into the whole movement.
Yes, the whole natural things that we should be doing.
Yes.
Lifting heavy things.
The ancestral movement, lift heavy things, climb stuff.
Yeah.
And so it spoke to me, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and I loved the camaraderie in the Spartan community. there was no ego there. The pros were out there high-fiving the beginners.
Yeah.
You know, you're running through an obstacle. If you have trouble, someone reaches back and lends a hand and pulls you up and over.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is the brotherhood I missed from martial arts.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a few years. And so I started looking at ways to optimize my Spartan training. And so I'm doing kettlebell and I'm doing, you know, a lot of body weight. And I learned some animal flow.
Yeah.
And that led to, you might like, you know, on Instagram or whatever, like, and I see Leo Savage flowing with a steel mace. And I'm like, dude, what the heck is that?
Yeah, like that's the coolest thing ever.
The coolest thing ever. Here's this guy moving like Bruce Lee.
So beautiful, his movement, man.
Yeah, and twirling this tool like a freaking samurai. What is that tool?
Yeah.
So then I look at into it some more, and I'm like, steel mace. Okay, I got to order one. So I order one of the On It, you know, 10-pound steel maces.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to just start swinging it because, you know, I've done the bow staff. I've done Kali sticks. So I'm familiar with, like, stick weapons. I've done some sword training. And so I felt I'll pull this thing out of the box and I'll just start rocking and I'll move like Leo.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Well, at least you bought a 10-pound. You didn't do
Yes.
like a lot of people do.
Sure.
I hear stories all the time. They bought a 15 and 20-pound mace. It's like, nope.
Yeah.
Get humbled real
I went
quick.
more like on a price point, like, well, this is the least expensive one to see what
$40.
this is all about.
Yeah.
Versus going to a higher price and not even knowing if I want to do this or like it.
Yeah.
So I purchased this thing, and I think I'm just going to rock it right out of the box. I pull it out, and I start to try to do a move or two, and it gets there. And I'm like, man, they mislabeled this. This is a 30-pound mace. You know?
Yeah.
I said, what the heck? How is it so heavy? I look at the label. It's like 10 pounds. I put it on a scale, man. I kid you not.
For real?
I go, where's the weight scale? This thing was misshipped
You had to check it.
And it was 10 pounds, and I was like complete humble pie again.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about student mentality. I'm like, wow, I have no idea how to move this thing.
You look at it, it's almost just like, what do I do with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You envision, and you see the YouTube and the Instagram videos of Leo and all these other great artists out there, and you're like, oh, that's what I'm going to do with this when it comes in. Mm-hmm. And then you try one or two moves, and you hit yourself, and you're like, oh, dang, I need to learn how to do this from scratch.
Yeah.
And so I was actually traveling up here to Austin for a class in physical therapy to do some continuing education. And I reached out to Leo on Instagram and said, hey, Leo, I've been following you on Instagram. I really love what you're doing. I'm going to be in Austin. Could I book you for a lesson? And, I mean, I was so surprised. I did this like 3 or 4 weeks out thinking, oh, he'll never get back to me. Maybe some point he'll get back to me.
Yeah.
And, like, right away he responded. I'm like, whoa.
Super responsive.
Yeah, here's this, like, really big time martial arts, if you will, steel mace artist. And he just reached out right away and said, wow, yeah, I'm actually in town that weekend. I'd love to meet you. Why don't we meet out at the park and we'll go spin the mace around and do some flow.
Yeah.
And there we go. I booked it. And I had been training from YouTube and stuff, and I was kind of getting some kind of skill. Mm-hmm. And I meet with him, and immediately, and this is a cool segue because he starts fine-tuning my movements, and it was the same inside emotion that I had experienced with Danny Inosanto.
Really?
Or level like Senior Grandmaster Sullivan.
Yeah.
These are guys in their 80s now that have been around from the inception of martial arts, and their in-depth knowledge is so tight that you're amazed at the little insight they can give you. And Leo comes out with like, hey, on 360, your shoulder blade's probably tight because your elbow didn't cross your nose and your face, and you're pulling through early. And I was like, whoa, how did he see that? Like, the most minute detail, and immediately I corrected, and I'm like, yeah, it felt better right off the bat. So we did like a 2-hour flow at Zilker Park. He took me through all these basics and immediately ignited my passion for steel mace. I'm like, I'm doing this.
Right.
And I asked him, like, how do I get more of this? I live so far away. And he's like, well, hang tight. We're going to be doing something online. I really can't share a lot with you yet, but it's coming. Just stay tuned to my channel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm in. And so a few months later, he released the steel mace course.
Okay.
And went through all of that, obviously, with you, which is super awesome.
Yeah, it was a really good group. We had a lot of good artists in that group.
Yeah. So on the way through this whole path, I went to another class called the Sword Experience. And I was, being a martial arts movie fan and all that, I don't know if you remember the Highlander.
We were talking about that, yeah.
90s, yeah. So Highlander, he's Adrian Paul. The guy is a really, really master with a sword. Mm-hmm. And I love the Japanese sword. And he was teaching the sword nearby. He does a thing called the Sword Experience. You spend a whole half day with him and get really intense, like basic foundation of the samurai sword. Yeah. So I went through that course. It was in June, I think, or sometime in the summer. And working with the wooden sword.
It's like last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that inception, that aha moment of like, oh, a training mace.
Yeah.
here I have trouble, with the steel mace. I'm learning. I'm novice. I'm getting this movements, and I have all these ideas I want to do, but I'm kind of scared to do it with a 10-pounder.
Yeah.
Or, I try it and I'm not quite as effective, and I can't really slow it down for too long because controlling that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds so light, like a 10-pound, you can't control it, but it's so amazing.
But most of the weight's like at a long lever, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you got like women or children or
Right.
just somebody who's rehabbing,
Yes.
right? It doesn't matter if you're a man or woman, but you just don't have that strength.
Sure.
Like, man.
For sure. So I said there's got to be a training mace out there that I can buy, kind of like the wooden sword. And so I start looking online, and I don't find anything. I try different keywords. I don't find anything. I look, through Onnit and all these companies that are making the maces. No one has a light.
Yeah, you're like the only one. I looked. I was like, is there, like,
Yeah.
no one else is making this, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah, and I bought a 5 and a 7, and they're cool and all, but they're shorter. They have a different feel.
Yeah.
And so they don't have the same transition into the 10-pounder or higher.
Yeah, once you start getting to heavier maces, even if it's not from Onnit, like the handles are going to be longer and usually a little thicker.
Yep. So I said, with the same martial arts mentality, like, we need a simulated training weapon for this. And as a physical therapist, my whole thing is acquiring movement pattern correctly. So I said, well, let's make one.
Yeah.
Let's make one. And so I started thinking, oh, dang, well, how do I make one? And I remembered at one point, one of my staff members, she was an intern at the time. Her name is Paula. Her dad, she just showed me one day, like, hey, look at this beautiful shelf set my dad made for my dorm room. And it was like something incredibly intricate and really nice. And I just remembered that out of nowhere. And I said, dude, I bet her dad could make a wooden mace. And I was thinking at first just for my own personal practice. It was like, I want him to make me one so I can get better.
Yeah.
And I call her, and he's like, yeah, let me introduce you to my dad, and you can show him what you want. And so I go over and I show him the steel mace. Can we make it? And we just started brainstorming. Well, yeah, we could use this wood. We could do this. We could do that. And I had some changes on the grip pattern that I thought would be better than some of the brands that were out there, where the placement was and the thickness and all that kind of stuff. So I said, obviously differentiated it, but more importantly, at this time, it was still just for my own personal practice. I wanted to change some of the design. So we ran through like 4 or 5 prototypes, getting the weight distribution right, getting the feel right, and we nailed it where I felt was just right, and we found it was from maple. Maple was readily available. It was easy to work with. It took a beautiful stain, and I put it online on Instagram. I'm like, hey, I'm Dr. Joey. I'm a steel mace practitioner, and I had this really great idea from a sword class that a wooden training mace would be a great concept. So I came up with this tool. We're calling it, at the time, we were calling it ThorFit.
Yeah.
Like calling this thing ThorFit, because Thor swings around hammers and maces. So it'd be pretty cool to do this. And I just kind of threw it out there on Instagram. And I got all these messages like, are you selling those? I want to get one. Do you have a website?
Absolutely.
And I look at my wife and I'm like, dude, there's a demand here. There's a need.
Yeah, you hit, like, you fill a need that you did you realize it wasn't even there? Like,
yeah, like I had this need for this, but I never thought, well, other people have this need. Let's make a business. I just, I like to Instagram stuff. I like to share things out there because the Mace community is so welcoming and so like awesome.
Yeah.
That I throw a lot of stuff out there and I just get this great feedback all the time. That's what I love about the community outside the training.
Yeah.
And everybody chimed in like, I want one. Can you make one? Do you sell them? And I said, well, dang, this is kind of a cool side project. We can make maces.
Yeah.
How fun would that be? And so I contact him again. I'm like, can you make a bunch of these? Like, would it be something you'd want to do? And he's like, absolutely, man. If you think, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so the Primal Flow Mace system was born like that. We really took it to town and said, well, I do the staining and finishing. I'm an artist, so I love the aesthetics of it all.
Yeah.
And he does the woodsmith side of it. And we just started saying, well, let's set up a website. My wife, I'm super blessed to have all these resources. She does websites, and she does all this online.
Perfect team. You guys are the perfect team.
Right? I tell you, her doctorate is in online education, adult learning. And so she designs courses and things online. So I say, well, could you make me a website? Because people are asking, why don't we put a website, a little shopping cart?
Yeah.
And we'll make, let's make 10 maces and see what happens. I put it online, and within the first day, all 10 sold out.
Gone.
And we're like, oh, hey, Mr. Santos, could you make more than 10 at a time? He's like, let me know how many you need to make. We'll make them.
Wow.
So then he said, okay, well, we're going to pre-sale 25 now. Online, boom, 25 available now for pre-sale. A day later, bam, sold out. Oh, dang, okay. And so I'm the weak link in this whole thing because I have a practice, and I have an 8-year-old daughter. I have a family. And I'm the one that does all the staining and finishing. And the logos is done by one of my employees. She has a graphics business.
Okay.
So she does our logos. So I'm the one that has to finish them all. So I'm like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm like painting Maces like
that's
a
your whole
madman.
weekend.
Yeah. And then my wife does all the shipping and the business side of it all. And so we just go, okay, world, we're pre-selling for May. It's April.
Yeah.
Here we go. And we know, okay, we can get our hands on 30 this month. So we put a shopping cart of 30 and we put it out there. And it's been such a blessing. It's like sold out.
Yeah.
I got to get to work.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
do you worry about further scaling? Like, do you think about like how you're going to further produce more?
So I started talking this conversation with Mr. Santos because this is like, okay, we made 10, we sold out. We made 25, sold out. We 30, we sold out.
So you probably started batches of 100.
Yeah. So I told him, like, where can we go with this? Like, how far can we go with this? Or do you know other craftsmen that do the same skill that we can like have several different people doing it at a time?
Yeah.
And he has an assistant, an apprentice that's really great too. And he goes, well, I've actually trained my apprentice, and they fabricated like almost like a factory workstation for this thing.
Okay.
They put like these guidelines, and they put like a saw under a table, and they made like almost like an assembly line
specifically for your product.
Specifically for my product.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And he's just so innovative. Yeah. And he goes, I had a real big, strong feeling that this was going to just take off. So we started to try to be really efficient on making these.
Yeah.
He goes, we could put out 100 in a weekend if you need them.
So I love that because like it's helping everybody, right? I mean, the end consumer gets helped. I mean, you and your family get helped, and in turn, you're helping like your employees and their families, and you're helping this guy in his business. And it's just like
it's such an artisan, grassroots, sustainable living project.
Yeah, like the quality is there. You can feel it. You can tell. It's like somebody made this, and we're kind of going back to that in America, right? Nobody wants just like the cheap.
No, you're so
thing
right.
that's scaled on like just on a conveyor belt. You know what I mean?
And coming back to this, that we're at Paleo Effects. That's the exact vision of this whole movement: is back to the roots. Back to, natural and handmade. And I think that's why we've been such a crazy, like, underground hit here.
Yeah.
Where I've seen everybody walk around the Expo floor with our Maces.
Dude, they're everywhere.
Yeah. I'm so humbled and, like, completely just mind blown when I see that. Because I went out on a limb and did this idea for my own training, and it became something that is giving people so much. And it was not intended to be like, I'm going to have a business plan and we're going to make this and we're going to produce, 10,000 Maces. But it was nothing like that. It was more like, hey, I think people could use this to do better for their life.
Yeah.
And I integrated it into my clinic in physical therapy since it's lightweight.
Yeah.
And our first prototypes were less than a pound or like a pound. We had to go from all kinds of weight through woods and all that. But those prototypes I use in my clinic. They weigh like a pound.
Like 1 or 2 pounds is still good for certain things.
Absolutely.
For sure. I mean, you start doing mills and different things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I have people that are coming from rotator cuff surgery or shoulder impingements, or I have
common
85-year-old orthopedic, shoulder osteoarthritis, and they're sitting on a plyo box and they're doing bow and arrow and they're doing uppercuts and they're doing mills, and they're like little ninja warrior 85-year-old grandma, and they're lighting up, and when a staff member comes by, they jab them with a mace. It lights them up that something like TheraBand or a traditional tool doesn't have the same novel effect on the mindset.
And I think, like you said, I mean, like that wood, like just the aesthetic of it, like it's very inviting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I want to hold that. Like it kind of, like you gravitate towards it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so through that process, we had the name Thorfit because I'm just, a big fan of Thor and the Viking culture. And
you go see the new Avengers?
I haven't seen the new one, man.
Not yet. I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, this coming weekend for sure. And so along that way, I said, hey, can you make a Thor's hammer?
Yeah.
I had designed a logo for the class that was going to be a Mace class, but I called it Thorfit just because I was trying to go on the whole warrior attitude.
Yeah.
So I made the Thorfit logo, and I had the hammer with a hand and the lightning bolts and all this. And I thought, well, man, our logo's a hammer, but we're using a mace. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
My geekdom is like, I want a Thor shirt, and I want to have a brand called Thor, but it doesn't make sense with our product.
Right.
So we got to have a hammer. And so from the drawing of the hammer that I used for my logo, I said, could you make this in wood? A day later, he pumps out this mesquite hardwood Thor's hammer that was identical to my photo of my drawing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow. So this is the Thorfit hammer. Now we need to do something that's for the mace, and we need to come up with a word. And so obviously steel mace flow.
Yeah.
Flow. It's art. It's wood. Wood is more primal than steel. So primal flow, like boom.
Boom.
Primal flow. So we renamed the Maces to Primal Flow Maces. We got that whole thing set up.
Yeah.
And the Thorfid hammer, which was originally our name, is now a product of Primal Flow.
Right.
And so this weekend, it was like the crazy surprise victory, like sellout product here.
Yeah.
Everybody was walking around with Thor's hammer on the expo yesterday.
Dude, they're everywhere.
We brought a few, like we brought us a batch thinking it might hit. It was more like, hey, let me put these out there. People might enjoy them. Avengers is coming out this weekend. I should have thought, Avengers is coming out this weekend. We need to bring a ton of these.
Yeah, but it's so funny, dude. Like, that exact story, like, I've heard that with some of, like, just some of the best products that ever hit. It's like, oh, yeah, we went to a trade show. We didn't think it was really going to hit. We took a few, and then it blew up, and then next thing you know, it's just flying off the shelves. You know what I mean? Like, and I think one of the most important things to your story for people, because, like, I'm just always studying, like, high achievers and just, like, business and different things, and it's like, you didn't really have a plan necessarily, and like you didn't know how you were going to do it, but you did it. And I think that's just so cool and just so powerful.
Right, and it kind of goes to the martial arts mentality, right? You know, you got to go with the flow. Bruce Lee, be like water. You know, don't go resist what's happening. Go with it. And be ready and be prepared to meet the need, but just walk in too. You know, I have so many people that I follow, or I feel like are mentors, and they'll say something like that too, like, oh, I really wanted this as a goal, but I didn't know I was going to get there. I just did it, and I made myself adapt to make it happen.
Right.
And so I think that adaptability from, you know, having an injury to coming to a career as a PT and then following it back to martial arts to Steel Mace and creating a product, it's just that kind of going with the tide, and it's such a crazy random story of how stuff comes together. But then you kind of go back to say, well, is it random? You know, is there a bigger plan? You know, does God have a plan to say, I've equipped you with all this crazy experience, all these things that you've done, and it's all going to kind of culminate to this one weekend where, you know, this weekend, really Primal Flow, besides it's a mace, it's a movement practice. And so obviously I've stemmed off of the foundation of Steel Mace Flow, but I've broken it down. I had this long discussion with Leo, like, I want to create a foundations course, but I don't want to go into your realm because you do such a well-rounded program.
It's a good foundational course, for sure.
So he goes, no, you're going to bring a different taste to it because of your background. Do it.
Absolutely.
And so I said, well, here's my idea. As a physical therapist, I want to take what the Mace does and go body point, like shoulders. These are common dysfunctions of the shoulders, and these are corrective movements that I do in the clinic that the Mace offers to really recruit the serratus anterior, really mobilize the pec minor. These two muscle groups are problems and create shoulder impingement or rotator cuff tears. You know, the hip is frequently have internal, external rotators imbalanced. These are movements from the Mace that will stimulate that. And so I took the foundations of Steel Mace Flow, but I broke it down by body region, and I put it into a course. And going back to my wife, she designs courses for a living. We threw it for accreditation, and we got CEU credits from ISSA and the PT board.
I saw it, dude. Congratulations. That's excellent.
So now here at Paleo FX, we have people from Ireland. We have people from Hawaii, from Guadalajara. And they're like, we want to fly you in to teach and start this program in our gym. And so the Primal Flow Mace movement has been born here at Paleo FX. And it's literally gone worldwide. I mean, we got confirmation emails last night, like, this is the date ranges, this is what time we want to bring you over. So like, oh, this wasn't conversational, this was real.
This is real.
And I was serious, and we have the course, and we're ready, and we have the content. But, you know, sometimes you converse with people, and you have ideas like, hey, yeah, you should come teach it at my place. Absolutely, let's do this.
And there's no follow-through.
There's no follow-through. And then I get home after the conference last night, and there's, like, confirmation emails from them. Like,
dude,
here's our address. This is the date range. Like, this is real. Let's do this. I'm ready.
Does that feel surreal?
It does feel surreal. I come from a background of teaching martial arts. And with
well, your
my
wife said you taught for a number of years.
I was a high school teacher. So teaching is natural to me. Talking is natural to me. So when I was with the association and doing all the self-defense seminars, I frequently taught at seminars in Long Beach or New York, places like that, martial arts. So the gift to be able to teach Steel Mace or Mace Flow in general to people from around the world, and with our particular tool, the Primal Flow Mace, that could be a gateway for someone to go, I love this. I want to be Steel Mace Flow certified, go into Leo's program, or I want to go heavier and stronger and go into like Rick Brown's program and go with like heavy mace swinging. I mean, this is the way I envision Primal Flow. Was it's a gateway to give a movement practice to someone that can stay and stand alone there as it is, or it can open up the whole door like it did for me.
100%, dude. I mean, the barrier to entry for this is so much lower.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to deal with all that weight of a
Yes.
10-pound mace. You don't have to worry about, because I've had so many people, the mace looks so cool, but my shoulders.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But
yes.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, here's this tool right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a PT, I mean, that's my whole mindset when I get a patient come into my clinic is, how can I get them to move again? And they always tell me, well, I'm here today because my, discs in my lumbar spine are herniated and I have this bone spur, or I tore this tendon. And my job literally is, okay, I have to restore movement from the ground up. I have to rebuild this person.
Mm-hmm.
So my mindset is, how do I bring movement to somebody? And I always ask, so what do you do? Are you a martial artist? Are you a runner? Or do you have a job where you sit at a desk all day? Like, what movements is in your daily life that I have to restore? And I like to say, take you to the next level. I want you to leave my place fitter and stronger and more equipped than you were when you were injured. So not only are you healed, you're better than you were pre-injury.
Yeah, because chances are, like, if you got injured, like you tore something, then you probably were like lacking in some sort of capacity or range of motion. Yeah, for sure. So it's like, well, let's address those and fix them now so you're even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, a key part of prevention is assessment. Like what needs assessment? Do you have
honest assessment?
Yes. Like, look at your posture, man. This is why your shoulder has a bone spur.
Yeah.
Look, and then you drive this way, or.
Right. It's like, you have headaches because you're sitting here like this all day, and like you start getting some forward head, and it's just like, man, you have all these muscle imbalances. It's like, man.
Yeah.
It just
so I approach steel mace the same way. It's like, I want everybody to try this tool because it's so freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But I can't get everybody and give them a 10-pound mace and say, here you go. I got to find a way to bridge the gap to introduce movement to people. That is my job role.
Yeah.
And so by having the need of making the mace, the training mace, it was like, this is my answer as a PT to bridge the gap into movement.
Yeah.
But when I started fabricating these things and seeing what people were doing on social media, like Brandon Baum, that guy, Meat Bomb, that dude, he's pulling off some moves because the mace is light. Mm-hmm. He's whipping stuff around like Darth Maul. Like, this guy is moving like some kind of way out of control ninja with a speed that I'd never imagined because the tool's light. So this was like, hey, this is its own
thing.
Movement practice. It's created its own life.
Yeah.
And it's separate from steel mace in the sense that there's things you could probably do that you shouldn't do with a steel mace.
100%. Yeah, because there's not that injury risk.
Yes. Yeah. I've hit myself pretty hard with the steel mace, and I've hit myself pretty hard with the training mace. And I can tell you, I'll take the training mace every
day of the week. Yeah, absolutely, dude.
So it brings a daringness that the steel mace may not have, and so I love that it can be its own standalone style based off of steel mace.
Yeah.
But it has its own distinctiveness, and so I've built a respect for it that it kind of birthed itself. And what people are interpreting in its way of movement is making it, it's happening on its own. Mm-hmm. And this is not something that I set out to do. Like, I'm going to create a sub-style of steel mace, and we're going to break it down this way.
Yeah.
It's birthed on its own.
Very naturally.
Yeah. I just gave the tool, and people have taken it to another level.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the theme I'm noticing, right? It's like, the right people just kind of seem to be there for you, and like the community's been. But I feel like when you live with intent, and I'm just a big proponent of like the energy that you put out as the energy that's returned to you. Like, things just fall in place, and that just seems to be what's happening.
Yeah,
like, you're a very positive person. You and your wife both just have really great energy.
I think that's just been a gift that God's put in our path is like, be positive, be open, be humble.
Yeah.
And be a force that's positive to drive people somewhere forward. People get put down all the time.
Yeah.
You talk to people and you tell somebody an idea, and the first thing you do is they knock it.
Yeah. And who's harder on you than yourself, right? So we're all being hard on ourselves all day. Like, let's be nice to each other.
Right. Thank you. So if you can find a way to empower people, that's just a godly thing to do, is like lift people up.
Yeah.
And when you do that, I think people are more open to you and more open to listen to you because they don't feel they're not threatened by putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
And so I think that I've been able to sort of gravitate people, like synchronicity, people will gravitate to you that have that same mindset, and we're just surrounded by such awesome people that see like, dude, this guy, like my staff out here, the coaches that are here with me today.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything about a steel mace. Now they're like preaching steel mace to everybody.
All super friendly out there, giving instructions and teaching people flows. But
I think it's because they saw the passion I truly have for it, that they see that this is such a healing tool, and they're all carrying people themselves, and they have their own bachelor's in kinesiology, and so they're movement scientists.
Yeah.
And so they've said, you know what, I'm buying into this tool because I've seen it help people. And so this kind of positivity, like you say, is gravitated towards us, and it's just made this whole environment so good. And that's the general climate here too. I walk around everywhere, and everybody's so friendly.
Yeah.
Everybody's so complimentive. People are willing to share, and hey, let me tag you on my page so you get more exposure.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And that's why I was like, dude, let's sit down so like we
living
can
proof right here.
Like spread the word, dude.
Absolutely.
Like this goes all over, so it'd be great for people to hear it.
Yeah. So if I could be a teeny tiny cog in that wheel of moving people forward, it's what I'm here to do, I think.
Right on, dude. That's all positive. So, dude, I don't want to take any more of your time. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Absolutely.
But I want to turn the floor over to you. So, like, anything you want to plug, obviously, like where can people go to get the Maces and all the socials and anything you just wanted to leave the people with, man?
Well, it'd be just great to have you guys check out my Instagram. It's Dr. Joey PT. That's Dr. Joey JOEYPT.
I'll put all this in notes as well,
Sweet.
so it's easy to find.
Awesome.
But just so you can tell it verbally.
That's kind of like the hub. I post to that, and then I just sub-post to everything else because we have Primal Flow Movement, which is more geared towards the Maces, and we have primalflowmovement.com. I think, like, look at my wife.
Maybe.
Like, is that our address? Yes, it is. Okay, cool. Primalflowmovement.com is our website, but really the link's in our bio, and Dr. Joey PT is like the hub for everything to reach out to us.
Yeah.
Instant message there is probably the best way because I see that more than
Instagram's
email.
like the best platform for
Yeah,
you.
that's kind of like my center hub, and then email and everything else is secondary. I really don't check a lot of that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Instagram just changed the way we do business.
Absolutely. And it's been really the driving force behind everything. So that's the best way to reach me. And I'm completely so happy to like answer questions. And it's just cool to interact with people and the positivity of everybody just supporting this movement. And we're at the cusp, we're at the springboard of a huge revolution.
This is all still very new.
Yes. The kettlebell, the battle rope was here, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, where it was kind of like on the fringe.
Yeah.
And now it's like everywhere.
Yeah.
And I strongly feel that if we do this right with the Steel Mace community, this can be that.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Good. So.
Dude, awesome. Well, hey, dude, thanks again.
Absolutely. It's been an
I
honor,
really
man.
appreciate it, man.
Definitely.
It's been awesome. So, all right, everybody, until next time.